to Beyond the Gate, our Full-Metal Alchemist Brotherhood podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Meg.
And today we're discussing episode 44, Revving at Full Throttle.
Yes, in this episode, Hohenheim and Alphonse enjoy a chance to get reacquainted. Their bond is restored with ease, inspiring the father to share his secrets with his sons, but one of them is far away and on the run.
Have I mentioned how much I love these descriptions? They're usually really, really good.
Yeah, no, I'm impressed. Whoever is writing the descriptions at Crunchyroll,
they're a fan.
Yeah.
And this episode covers manga chapter 81 of Full Recovery and 82 Family by Spirit, which is a title I love.
Yeah, it's cute. All right, let's jump into this episode. Al and Hohenheim are reunited in Leore, as we saw at the end of the last episode. It's kind of awkward. Like, Hohenheim's like, I don't know what to say, and he's like, I gotta go help these guys out, and they decide to catch up later. And I was like, oh, okay. Al looking around the town, and he's seeing that Leore seems to, be in pretty bad shape. The town has been pretty destroyed by all the riots and stuff. But the guy at the shop is like, oh no, it's okay, because the town had actually been brought together by you and your brother, exposing the
Father Cornello.
Yeah. For what he was. And even though it caused riots, it ended up being for the better. And then Al is inspired, and he goes off to help rebuild, and then so do the two chimeras, and they drag along a very reluctant Yoki to help as well.
That reminded me of when my dad's like, all right, kids, time to do yard work, and my brother, sister, and I are like, no! He drags us outside.
Yep. And then we see Winry. She goes off with Rose, and she gets a chance to clean up and change clothes, and I don't know, it's just a sweet bonding moment for Rose and Winry. And basically Rose is talking about, well, first she's talking saying thank you to Winry for helping Ed get back up on his feet, literally. And and then how that ended up helping her. And then they're talking about Ed.
Rose knows what's up. I'm sure she does.
Yeah, she totally does. But Rose is sharing how Ed helped her recover from the loss of her fiance, and she's like, yeah, he told me to get back up on my 2 feet and basically keep moving forward. And in the anime and in the manga, Winry's like, oh, I can't believe he said that, and he's so insensitive. And Rose is like, no, that's what I needed. And I don't know, I liked that, because sometimes that is what you need.
I appreciate Rose's character so much, because on some level she's relatable. I've been in situations where people I care about have provided gentle love and or tough love to me. And sometimes you got to be careful about which one you give, but in most circumstances I don't think they were wrong. Tough love is needed sometimes. And
yeah. It also depends on who it's coming from as well.
For sure, yeah. But yeah, Rose is very hospitable. I love how she makes sure to emphasize to Winry how much Ed and Al mean to her and the town. She even gives Winry some of her clothes, and in the manga she's keeping in mind that Winry will have to move around a lot in them, so she's just gifting her some new clothes. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I really like that.
They're lucky they're the same size, just saying.
Yep. Yeah. That's not a surprise in anime. I feel like a lot of the girls all
they have the same body type.
Yeah, a lot of them do.
I'm sorry, I love Full Metal, and there are females with varying body types in Full Metal. It's just that it's common in any media you see even with the guys. like Demon Slayer, the guys have copy paste bodies for the most part. So, so when you see a show that goes out of its way to do different body types, like I don't know, I think Haikyuu does it pretty well. It's something that's noticeable and something that's commendable.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, next we see Beto, the lizard chimera who was friend of Greed's. He had followed the military from Izumi's home to somehow he ended up under Central, and he is looking for Greed. And while he's doing that, he finds the Immortal Army.
Yeah, and in the manga, he also stumbles upon the chimeras that are in the tunnels under Central, but they don't attack him because he's technically one of them.
Yeah, and when he's he overhears Olivier and that other soldier, I'm sorry, we still don't know his name, talking about basically like going into more details about the Immortal Army. The soldier saying that they're mindless and immortal, and the plan is to bind souls that they got from the battlefields. And he says something gross. He's like, battlefields are hunting ground, or the hunting ground for a collection of souls. And I'm like, bleh, no thanks.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's bad. And then
that's like sorry, make a comparison in my mind. But that's like, you know, in the Lunar Chronicles when somebody died of the disease and they took their ID chip out of them and put it in the lunar soldiers? That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Stolen identities.
Yeah. And then Beto obviously is freaked out and he runs away and then he sees Greedling, or he runs into Greedling. And then we go back to Leore. Al fills in Hohenheim about what they've been up to and all that they've learned, and Hohenheim is like, wow, you're so trusting, you just saw me again for the first time and I look exactly like the guy underneath Central, like what if I'm working for them? And at first Al is like, oh, I made a mistake.
But then Hohenheim is like, thank you for trusting me. Like, there's this purity in that moment. And Al's just like, yeah, trusting you. Yeah, sure, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, dodged a bullet there.
Ooh, I messed up.
I
almost messed up big time.
Give him a pass. He's 14.
And that's his dad.
Yeah. And kind of at the end of that conversation, Al tells Hohenheim that Ed is missing, and they have no idea where he is, but and we don't know either, but not for long.
We're about to.
Because we go to the north once again, and we see one of the chimeras, whose name I think is Darius. He is withdrawing money from Ed's account at the bank to pay the doctor's bills, and he has Ed's watch and then like a letter from Ed saying that that's all good to take money, and then he leaves and the bank employees immediately call the military like, hey, this random guy just withdrew money from Ed's account. And we at the doctor's office, the chimeras are paying the doctor, and they see the military arrive outside. They kind of barge in and are looking everywhere for Ed, and it is just very tense. And we see this is like one of my favorite entrances.
Great scene.
Yeah, it's so good. We see somebody walking up to the door towards one of the soldiers. We don't see his face yet, and he's like, what are you doing? What are you looking? Why are you here? And the soldier is like, we're looking for someone. And he reads the description, and he's like, he has a braid, a red coat, and he's short. And Ed, yeah,
and it's Ed. It's Ed.
Yeah.
He's
okay, so obviously Ed. He like has a toothpick in his mouth and he like snaps it and like totally takes down the soldier. but all you hear is like the commotion from we see it from inside, and then another soldier goes out and he takes that guy out too, and the third soldier's like, what's going on, he's like screaming and
in the most epic
so,
way possible. Ed punches through the wall and like chokeholds him with his automail arm until he passes out.
yeah, it's so great, so cool. And then we finally see him. He's wearing a white coat, his hair is down, and I don't know, to me he looks more grown up.
Yeah.
But he has made a recovery, and he's back.
I lived.
Yeah. And they decide they need to leave the doctor's office quickly because there's more soldiers are arriving. And they come up, and as Ed and the chimeras are leaving, and they take Ed hostage.
The chimeras are like, well, one, Darius, I think, is holding a gun to Ed's head, and the other one is doing finger guns because he doesn't have his weapon.
No.
Okay. I got two notes on this scene. So, I remember when Meg and I first watched this, when the chimeras grab him and they like threaten him and stop the soldiers, and then they run away. Ed drops his bag of groceries, and Meg and I screamed no because we're like, Al needs those calories because Ed's eating for two.
Yep.
And then in the manga, when the chimeras pretend to threaten Ed, the soldiers say, "You cowards, taking such a small child hostage."
Yeah. It's so great. And Ed's face throughout the scene, he's like just so like
blank.
Seriously, like
he's like nomming on his bread.
So good. And then they go outside, and then we see them in a car chase through the city. In the manga, it's I don't know, I enjoyed it because we see they got this car because they stole it from this couple.
This couple has made an appearance before, by the way. It's like a
really?
running gag. Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, because it's so funny because he's like, look at my fancy new car, and the woman's like, take me for a ride, and they're like, the chimeras come up and are like give us your car, and they're like, sure, take it. It's so great.
That's amazing.
And then so then car chase through the city, and they're not losing the soldiers, and Ed is like, go around, take this right turn, go around the corner, and then when they do that, Ed uses alchemy and like transforms the car, and all the military just drives past, and they're like, where'd they go? And I
don't know, maybe it's that gigantic tank of a car with spikes all over it,
right? I don't know. I mean, I think as them, I would have clocked like that is the weirdest looking car ever. But like,
that's a good point. It changed so much. Ed changed it so much. So how could they possibly think that Full Metal is in that car? I mean, like, if you know Ed, you know that's him. But if you're just looking for a nondescript vehicle as a getaway car, you wouldn't be looking at the stinking mystery machine over there.
Yeah. The chimeras are not amused. They're like, turn it back. This is so gaudy. And Ed's like, I think
it looks awesome.
Yeah. Ed has no style, basically. And everybody in this world thinks he has. Yeah, he's tacky.
His red coat, though, that is style.
Yeah, his like personal style is great. Everything that he like makes with alchemy, a little bit tacky. And so anyway, they've lost the military, and Ed and the chimeras are like, what are we gonna do? And like, we need to find Al, but they have no idea where he is. But we know that he is in Leore. And Hohenheim has just told Al everything about his past, which we saw in an earlier episode. And his dad's like, I understand if you don't believe any of this. And Al's like, no, I believe you. Like, he has a soul bonded to a suit of armor. Like, She's
Yeah,
gonna believe him.
yeah.
Al asks Hohenheim, like, how does it feel to be immortal? And I liked Hohenheim's line. He's like, sometimes it comes in handy, but it's not worth watching everyone you love die before you.
Yeah, that would be hard.
And also something interesting that that you learn in the manga is that Ed and Al's parents were actually married.
Mm.
Because we were talking about, how they took their
Yeah, Trisha didn't
mothers.
take
Yeah,
she
didn't take,
Hohenheim's name.
which I guess like
That makes sense. He wanted to
kind of
live
makes sense because
he wanted to live discreetly, so.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They also mention in the manga how Hohenheim knows Pinako, and they're drinking buddies from like what 40 years back,
I think it's like
longer,
50 or 60.
50
I
years
think is
back.
what it. Yeah.
Yeah, so Al's just like processing that like Granny Pinako and my dad's technically older than Granny. It's so weird, but
Uh-huh.
but then Al asks a question that I'm so glad that they addressed, and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"So you're a Philosopher's Stone, and Ed and I are your sons. Are we actually human, or are we something else entirely?" Because they
Mm-hmm.
resemble their father quite a bit.
Yeah, but then he's like, nope, I am human at my core, and so you guys are fully human. Which I like. I remember the first time we watched that having that question, but this second watch I didn't even remember that I
I
had
wasn't
like,
even thinking about that,
yeah.
but yeah, that was, well, I guess if they were gonna go down that route where Ed and Al are like special human beings, they
Mm-hmm.
could, because Ed has used himself kind of as a philosopher's stone
Mm-hmm.
to heal himself. So if they wanted to do that route, they could say like, oh yes, when he did that, he used like a philosopher's stone he didn't know he inherited from Hohenheim and was able to heal himself fully. But they made it more gritty, where it's like, no, doing that hurt him and took a couple of years off his lifespan, and he still had to go to a doctor afterwards. So I
Mm-hmm.
like that there was an easy way out, but the author's like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I I like that she's not afraid to hurt her characters.
Ouch.
Yeah.
We're gonna see that in a little bit.
Yeah. Um so after we get that confirmation that Ed and Al are normal humans, Hohenheim shares that father who's in Central, he is just a leather bag, which I love that they called him that. Like, oh, he's just a leather bag. And they need
Cute
to
tacky purse.
destroy the leather bag to destroy him. Basically, I mean, he's basically the dwarf in the flask where he has a container,
Yeah.
and if he gets out of that container, he's done. But Al, he wants to destroy the tunnel. He's like, that's gonna be the easiest way to finish this. But Hohenheim's like, nope, Pride's down there. He's way too dangerous. Um, and the tunnel is likely already finished, but the reason that they haven't used it yet is because the Day of Reckoning is not here yet, and they have to wait to carry out their plan. All right, now to the sadness. We go back to Beto. He's being chased by Greedling, and he looks pretty beat up, and he's trying to explain to Greed that they're friends, that he knows him, and Greed's like, I don't know you, and he kills him. And
And
it's
he like puts it
just,
together like this dude must have known the previous Greed, but I'm not him. So he
yep.
does
It's
away with
just
him, which is it's
so
so
terrible.
sad.
Honestly, in the manga, it's even worse because he's like,
Oh, it's
oh
totally worse.
yeah, I remember you, psych, and then like stabs
Yeah,
him.
the next page you turn the page and it's like stab.
Yeah.
But
Ugh, so
Beto,
sad.
we didn't know him for very long, and I was so glad that he survived, because like all the other chimeras under Greed's care died horribly, and that was like
Mm-hmm.
a really sad episode too. Like you didn't know them hardly, and yet you felt for them. But with Beto, he's so innocent, you know? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how old he is, but he has like a very childlike spirit, at least. And he kind of reminds me of Dobby from Harry Potter, you know? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I know. I don't. That it's true. Like I don't. We really did know him that well, but like it just crushed me seeing
Yeah.
that. Like it's just like it's just like the betrayal. It's like it's like Frozen when he's like,
Ooh, yeah.
right?
who could ever love
oh.
you? Or if only there was someone who loved you.
Yeah, it's like,
But this one's even worse because there was like a glimmer
yeah.
of hope that maybe he could remember his past self. And
Yep.
the previous Greed would never have done that. And, well, we'll see the repercussions.
Yep. Yes, because they come like immediately.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as he does that, Greed all of a sudden has like all these memories of his friends, and we see his like hands shaking, and he's like totally freaking out. And this is when we see Ling inside, attacking him. He's like, "What kind of sick creature kills his friends?"
Yeah, I mean, it's very impactful, especially in the anime when you get the voice actors and Ling screaming at him and like he's so furious with Greed for doing what he did. But in the manga, I loved it even better. He had a line that just hit me like really hard. And he says, "Friendship isn't something you can just forget. It's a bond between spirits, and that's something you can never wipe away." And that line both like sucker punched me in the gut and also touched my heart because, I mean, it's sad because like he just killed somebody he used to care about, and when you see Greed, in pain and screaming, he's holding Vito, like cradling him, just realizing what he's done. But it also made my heart kind of happy because, friendship it's a mixed bag. Like, you can lose touch with people you once considered to be your closest friends, like your soul sisters, your buddies, your brothers, whatever. And so that makes me think that even though you don't talk to each other anymore, you still had that bond and you'll still always remember them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like friends that I had in high school and stuff when I meet with them, even though it's been like forever and we don't talk that often. Like when I see them, I'm like, oh yeah,
Just
we
like old
have all
times.
these like shared memories together, and
Yeah.
it's
For me, it's kids I knew in elementary school where it's
mm,
like I don't talk to any of them anymore, but man, if I could just go back and say how much they meant to me.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, scene super sad. We Greed is like in so much pain. He's really fighting with himself, and Ling is just like totally in there, like twisting the knife. He's like, your friends are the only part of you that you chose, and you turn your back on something that you wanted, and he doesn't deserve to call himself Greed.
Yeah, that's an interesting part that we finally see greed, a sin, being used in a positive light. Like, it's more ambition or care for other people. Like, greed used to care for other people. Which reminds me of Ryusui from Dr. Stone, who's a character. He's a character who his line, his catchphrase is like, his catchphrase is what is it? Greed is
Well, it's
uh,
I don't remember what it is. It's very
no, I
simple,
think it's
but
like greed is admirable. Greed is
I'm not gonna help. I don't know. I'm not helping you.
Thanks,
You dug
thanks,
this hole for
Meg.
yourself.
Thanks. I'm digging to myself to China right now. Greed is worthy. Greed is something, like on something along those
yeah.
lines. And while I don't agree with the sentiment entirely, I think like if you're talking about being greedy for others, I think that's more generosity, and you're kind of twisting your wires there.
Yeah. But Vito's dead. Which, okay, this scene always like kind of confused me because I was like, why is Greed in the tunnels? Like, why is he just like attacking this guy? But then in the manga they do explain it. He's supposed to be guarding the tunnels.
Ah,
So it makes sense that he would be taking out the intruders.
it's true.
But
He's
anyway,
under Father's thumb
yes.
until the end
Yes.
credit scene.
Yes, where we see the Fuhrer is at home with his family, and all of a sudden they hear a bunch of noise, and they're like, "What's going on?" And the door opens, and Greed is standing there, and he attacks,
Yeah,
and
like
that's
it's
the
just
end.
it's just his nature to go against the grain, like not be a part of the homunculi family. Like
Yeah.
you just can't. have him as part of the crew.
Yeah.
Yep, but that's it. We have a couple things to track. So Ed's short rants. He didn't really say anything. He let his fists do the talking, but still, we'll count that. Ed's height, we can't really track it because he kind of looks shrimpy still when he's standing next to the chimeras because they're absolutely massive. But you can tell he has grown. Like, he's definitely matured. And then as far as animation expertise, I just wanted to mention the animated car chase. That's a difficult thing to pull off, but I think they did it very well. I'm pretty sure there was some integration of like both 2D and 3D animation, but I really liked the pacing of it, and it felt, high stakes and like everything a car chase should be.
Yeah. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and then story elements analysis. So the triumphant return of the hero. In the hero's journey story structure, there is the resurrection portion, and that's basically where a character either comes back from the dead or the brink of death. And Ed just had his, so we're on track here for storytelling.
Anyway, end of the episode. Megan, what was your favorite line?
Mine actually came from the nameless diner owner that I was talking to in Leore. He said, "You've got to look at all the good stuff that's come out of it." I like that line because it's like a bad thing happened, but the townspeople are all choosing to see the good and move forward. And I think that's really cool. Yeah. What's your favorite line?
Mine is from Ling when he's talking to Greed, and he's talking about his friends and how they're part of the old Greed, but Ling says, "It's not that easy. They'll always be a part of you. You can't just erase them from your soul. They were the only part of you that you chose."
Owie.
And then what did we learn in this episode?
Don't turn your back on the people you choose as friends. Whimper.
You gonna keep that in?
Yes.
They're not gonna know who it's from, though. It's from you. You're the
one who they know it's you.
Okay. And then who pushed the story forward in this episode?
Hohenheim for telling Al about Father's plan.
It like feels like not a lot happened in this episode, but
a
lot did, including Ed coming back from the dead.
And seeing Ling again. How many episodes has it been?
Right? And like, it's when you think about it, Ed was really only gone for 2 episodes, but it feels like a lot longer.
I mean, 2 episodes isn't bad, but he is the title character, so it feels like a lot longer. And that's another bold choice for both the mangaka and the directors of the show to take, because some people will lose interest if the main character or their favorite character is gone.
Yeah. But so his return, so worth it.
Oh, for sure. That was awesome.
Yeah. All right. We will be back next week with another episode.
Yep, thanks for listening.
All right. Bye.